And welcome to Farsighted. It's CNET's show about what's coming next tomorrow and way, way beyond tomorrow. I'm your host, Eric Mack in New Mexico, and I'm joined in the studio there in San Francisco by Bonnie Burton,
Hello.
Kelsey Adams, Jeff Sparkman, and Stephen Beecham behind the controls. So coming up today, a little later on in the show, we're going to discuss the DC and Marvel TV shows and movie trailers that have us either all hyped or hitting our heads against our desks in the case of some of us in certain shows. We're going to be talking about Spider-Man Homecoming, Justice League, Netflix Iron Fist, and The Flash, just to name a few. It's quite the roller coaster. If you want to join in the conversation, the chat rooms are live on YouTube and also on live stream. You can also send us a tweet with the hashtag Farsighted, and we'll keep an eye out for that as well. But to start, Elon Musk, one of our favorite human superheroes or mortal superheroes. We don't even know. He might not be real. He might be a hologram. But he has launched yet another far-out business. This time it's Neuralink, which aims to meld our minds with our machines. Now, the ultimate concept is something that Musk has called the neural lace, which is, okay, well, let's just listen to how Musk himself described it at the Code conference last year.
So what's the solution?
Yeah, so I think I think it's to essentially, I think one of the solutions that seems maybe the best one is to have an AI layer. If you think of like you've got your limbic system, your cortex, and then a digital layer, sort of a third layer above the cortex, that could work well and symbiotically with you. I mean, just as your cortex works symbiotically with your limbic system, your sort of a third digital layer could work symbiotically with the rest.
This is something that's surgically inserted or bred into the species, or what?
The fundamental limitation is input-output. So we already have, we're already a cyborg. It's just that, I mean, you have a digital version of yourself or partial version of yourself online in the form of your emails and your social media and all the things that you do. And you have basically superpowers in that with your computer and your phone and the applications that are there. You have more power than the President of the United States had 20 years ago. Like you can answer any question, you can video conference with anyone anywhere, you can send a message to millions of people instantly. You can just do incredible things. And but the constraint is input output. So we're I/O bound, particularly output bound. I mean, like your output level is so low. It's like, particularly on a phone, like your two thumbs are sort of tapping away. This is ridiculously slow.
When he said digital layer, I thought he meant LAIR, and I'm like, yeah, I want a digital layer. Like the new Justice League trailer shows us the Flash's layer, and it's all these like screens of TV, and like who knows, like half of them are probably porn. But I was just like, digital layer, I could deal with that. But then immediately when it's like surgically implanted, I'm like, oh no, I can't even get a root canal.
I think you're being thrown off by how much he looks like John Barrowman.
Okay, see, I was thinking that as soon as he came on. I'm like, oh, wait, I just watched him.
I don't know if you, like, when he's posed that question, do you think he was just making that up on the spot? Because his eyes were going all over the place and he was stalling. He was stalling quite a bit. I'm like, that when you're a genius, either your mind is going so fast that you can't keep up with it, or in his case, he just can make stuff up on the fly that sounds, okay, we could do that. Like, I don't know.
Well, there's a very big gap between saying we're cyborgs because we have online personalities and actually suggesting that you can implant stuff in the brain. Eric?
He goes on to say there, and by the way, I can't tell if he's like searching for words or if he's like, is this going to sound too crazy for this stage? But I mean, he goes on to actually say like, oh, you don't have to have surgery. We can basically do like nanobots in the bloodstream, and they'll go like attach to your neurons, and then they'll form like this digital layer in your brain.
It's like he's never seen a sci-fi movie. Like, just I'm thinking of like 12 movies where we've already been warned not to do any of this.
Well, no, see, this is his ending to the sci-fi movie in his head, because at the beginning, Walt Mossberg asks, what's the solution? And that's because they had been talking about, what do we do about artificial intelligence that becomes, much smarter than us? Like, how do we address it? So this is actually Elon Musk trying to come up with a solution to keep us smart enough to keep up with artificial intelligence.
And also, in case they enslave the human race, we need to be able to battle them with our cyborg abilities, right?
No, like, that's literally what he's talking about. Like, it's actually that crazy.
And all I keep thinking is Internet of Things. So anytime the more cyborg we are, the more hackable we are. So we might not even have control of our own brains.
So I could stand around my kitchen shouting at my Amazon Echo in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what he's talking about is, if we're worried about Skynet taking over, then this gives us a way that we can also at least tap into Skynet. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah. But this company of his is a real thing, and they are working on actual technology, right? I mean, there are medical implications of controlling things.
So the first applications for the company are actually a lot more reasonable, which is based probably like actual surgical implants that help you control things like epilepsy and even perhaps major depression. So that's, it's kind of not that far removed from like shock treatment, but and perhaps it's the more humane 21st century of that. But like with a lot of things that Musk has done, like it starts out with something reasonable, like, oh, I want to build cheaper rockets to resupply the International Space Station so that I can have a legitimate business to serve my ultimate dream of building a 1 million-person colony on Mars. So it's like the same thing here. It's like, well, we're going to treat epilepsy and these other neurological disorders so I can get a foothold in this business so that then we can fight AI. That's...
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if big pharma is replaced by big, computers. Like, it'll be interesting to see, like, okay, how much people are going to be willing to have nanobots and metal and electronics put into them as opposed to chemicals. But then again, pacemakers are people have been wearing those forever. People have these technologies that have been around that were groundbreaking at the time, and now they're just so kind of passé. Maybe I'm just overreacting a little bit, but I don't know. Like, I'm hopeful that we can move away from chemical treatments and maybe something more to bioengineering and genetics, but then that opens up a whole other wormhole of what's ethical and what's not, as far as like, what are we doing to our bodies and what are we doing to unborn children that haven't even existed yet? Because now you can just pick one out of a catalog depending on how much money you have. So,
right. My mom doesn't trust PayPal, so like if she doesn't trust Elon Musk's payments company, like I don't think she's gonna trust the brain company.
And if anything's hackable, who knows what could happen to us?
Right. Yeah. There's the implications are kind of insane. And the other thing is, I still can't. It makes a certain amount of sense when he talks about like, oh, well, we just need to replace the mouse and the keyboard, which are too slow to input, with our brain. We just need to like use our brain as an input. Like, that makes kind of a certain amount of sense. But like, what are the actual applications? Like,
do you feel like
degenerative diseases, for one thing?
Yeah, definitely. Like diseases. I just feel like he just watched Johnny Mnemonic and then just said, I could do that. Like, he just read a bunch of William Gibson books and was like, yeah, I could totally do that. And not even taking into account, like, all brains are not the same. There's diseases. Right. What does that imply for people with mental illness? What does that imply for... there's so many different reasons not to do that. But what were you going to say, Kelsey? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, just... I was just citing the case of degenerative diseases as being people who... might benefit from being able to directly move, change things with their minds rather than their hands.
Right.
Oh, I see. Right.
It would be cool if this was, if you could download these abilities that he's talking about, like you would an app. So then people just be trying out different things. Like maybe you try out Snapchat or you try out Instagram.
So
whatever.
now we're in Matrix.
Now you're gonna try out like the ability to do kung fu or jiu-jitsu or something like that.
Sorry, man, my sense of humor is in beta right now.
Yeah. And then like if you don't like the app, you just delete it, get it out of your system, whatever. And then get some other.
Yeah, I mean the idea of like being able to download an app into my brain so I can speak French fluently while doing my taxes and also putting together like my own spaceship would be great.
Yeah, except it would end up being like, after 3 French phrases, you got to sit there and watch an ad.
Yeah, I know,
then
right?
You can do it more.
There's exactly like I keep thinking every time you download a new app that's buggy, what would that mean? If it's buggy in your brain, like what is that? Do you have to sit in a corner?
May cause you to piss your own pants.
Yeah, is it like going to be the Olestra of apps? Right? Like
totally.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to naysay it because I like the idea of tech where I have to do as little work as possible to be smarter.
Well,
yeah. Anything that makes me feel smarter or more intellectual instantly, I'm totally down for. But
I think if you just start with something simple like the remote to your TV, just being able to just change channels just by thinking about it, that would be great. Because I always lose the remote, and
I do too.
You don't want to have to get up to look for it.
Right.
I've been so lazy that I lost the remote to my TV and then just downloaded the app.
I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know there's a great article on CNET, what to do when you lose your Apple TV app, and I have that bookmark because I lose it all the time. So it's that.
I did end up finding it, but
I mean you still can do sound control things, sound activated things. You don't necessarily have to have an Apple TV remote control inserted into your brain, but I mean I do like the idea of instant expertise. The only problem with that is then you lose the art form. Then you lose you have to do 10,000 hours to master something. You lose you've got cred because you did the work.
I was gonna say also this was gonna cost a lot of people their jobs. If you don't need a CPA to do your taxes all of a sudden because you just download an app into your brain, then there's not gonna be any CPAs working professionally anymore, and that goes for doctors too.
Well,
I heard like Amazon Alexa launched a new doctor on there so you just talk to it and stuff. So.
That's such a bad idea. Any of us that have looked at WebMD, as soon as we get the sniffles and then we end the night thinking we've got some rare
the bubonic
virus.
Plague.
Yeah, I thought I had a flesh-eating disease for a while, and I realized, oh no, I just got bit by a flea. It's just you don't want too much computer knowledge in your brain making you even more paranoid.
And seriously, get back to me when the Echo is actually capable of playing a song that you own by request every time.
Yeah.
Because they aren't even.
Oh
at that
really?
level
I haven't really tried that.
Yeah, no, I have one, and it's adorable. I'm very fond of it, but as a speaker, no.
Yeah. I mean, we want all this advanced tech, but we still have to perfect the tech we've got. So, I mean, kudos to Elon Musk for thinking that, whether it was on the fly that he thought that up or he actually is trying to make this happen. But I don't necessarily want to be the guinea pig for the mind implant that for Tesla brain.
Yeah, I mean, when your body rejects something, it's imagine your body rejecting that.
I mean,
if it went bad, it would go bad.
I wrote an article for CNET a few years ago about German biohackers that were putting those chips in their wrists so they wouldn't have to carry a key card around at work, so they could just open doors, they could go to certain places.
I've been tempted to do that with my Clipper card. Going on, Bart, even just taping it to my arm.
Well, the Clipper card thing, we did the article about the Metro, the fingernails. An art student did fingernails that you could apply that had our version of Clipper card, which would be it was not Metro card, but whatever it is in the UK, the Oyster card. She actually, and it worked. The only problem is, what if one of your fingernails falls off?
Yeah.
Then someone has your Oyster
card. That's always
card.
happening too.
Yeah. Well, it's like
if you're like Seth Brundle or something.
It's like Lee press-on nails.
Yeah.
For those who grew up in the 80s, but there's different biohacks that you can do now. They're just a little more painful than I think. I don't know if I would want to put a security card from work as a chip in my wrist. Because if it got infected or I don't know, it just seems like kind of over the top. But people are already doing biohacking, so it's not necessarily a brand new idea.
Imagine all the excuses on Twitter if people could be hacked. Like, I'm sorry, somebody forced me to drunk tweet last night. I had nothing to do
totally
with that.
Not me.
Well, if hackers can ransom your computer, they could definitely ransom every part of you if you are hackable. So, I mean, pacemakers already are hackable. So who knows what that would mean if they could hack the nanobots and running through your bloodstream. So I'm sure there's many sci-fi movies already in the works about that.
Yeah.
Let's see how far we are. Alexa, can you read my mind? No, apparently not.
You see? She's completely unreliable.
Well, wasn't there Alexa's CIA story going around?
Yeah.
Where you could ask Alexa CIA stories and questions, and all of a sudden she would come up with these weird theories, and then everyone was panicking that maybe it was like a Cancer Man situation. I don't know. I mean, they can only do so much. But if I was a programmer that programmed Alexa, I would put so many weird Easter eggs in that the minute someone like wrote or asked one question that seemed harmless, all of a sudden you download everything.
If I sneeze and Alexa says "God bless you," I'm gonna like be freaked out.
Yeah, right.
Anyway. Well, and I can't really tell anymore, like where the line is between what Elon Musk wants to do and can do, and like what is actually fiction in his head anymore. Maybe Alexa knows, but maybe we should just move on to fiction ourselves.
Hey.
Oh, wait, that wasn't the segue I had. I was supposed to say something about cyborgs. And
Right.
You don't have to say.
I blew it. I blew the segue. But cyborgs are which movie is that in? That's in Justice League. Right. So that was one thing that we were particularly excited about. You know what? I haven't.
Were we though?
I'm going to throw this to you guys. What are you most excited about or frustrated about all the shows we've been?
I did the shot-by-shot dissection gallery on this for CNET, and the more I watched it, the more I was annoyed. I love me some Aquaman. Trust me, the original Aquaman is a freaking dork in the comics and the animated series. So I'm glad that he is now a hot dude that like saves sailors, throws them on the table in a bar, and drinks beer.
Okay, we don't have to keep off that train of thought. Moving.
Oh yeah, so that's Wonder Woman. I love Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Wonder Woman.
But Affleck. There we go. I mean, is that not an Axe commercial? That's an Axe commercial.
It's on him.
Ugh.
Organic and biomechatronic body parts.
There's a cyborg.
Yeah, there's a cyborg.
That's his actual name, by the way.
Yeah.
You should probably move.
There's your digital lair.
Whoever you're looking for, it's not me. You're the Batman?
They said the age of heroes would never come again.
It has to.
I just like how the Flash is flirting with her.
That's a good one.
Hair flip.
What are your superpowers again?
I'm rich.
I don't like that line either.
It's like something the whole nation can get behind.
Shall we?
It's good to see you playing well with others again. Just like a bat. I dig it. Maybe temporary.
I will say Aquaman car surfing is pretty pretty awesome. I mean, here's the problem I've had with DC for a while now is that I feel like they're almost trying a little too hard to just throw everything at the wall to see what sticks. And some things are great. Like, I cannot wait for Wonder Woman. I think they may actually have done Wonder Woman right. And I can't wait for a lot of these standalone movies, like the Aquaman movie, I think is going to be great. But there's just certain moments, like as a person that's mostly a Marvel fan, I like that they do crossover with same actors. I like that there's a canon, there's a continuity to it. I like that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has shout-outs and guest stars from actual actors from the movies, and there's crossover, and it's like everyone talks to each other. But with DC, I feel like everyone's all in different buildings not talking to each other, and you don't have that. Like, I love Flash, the TV series. I do not understand why they didn't use the same actor. I do not understand why they didn't continue it, like have it be like the same. Having Billy Crudup as prison dad and having the hand on the glass thing, which, by the way, is creepy when it's father-son hand on the glass at prison. That's not what that means. Having Amy Adams look up at the sky, because Superman's not in this trailer. at all. And he's supposedly in this movie. So having her just look up at the sky longingly, I guess that's our Superman reference for this trailer. It's hard for me to separate. And it's also, we've had so many actors play Batman at this point that it's just having Affleck, I feel like he's flavor of the week and he's not going to do it anymore. So
did Affleck have a Batman movie by himself? It's always been like Superman or someone else is in it, right?
I think, didn't he have one by himself?
No,
or
not yet.
Not yet.
He hasn't.
No. But
So
I
thought that was interesting.
But
He
he's not
hasn't
going
had-
to. I don't
He's
think
not.
he is.
Yeah, I don't think he is.
Yeah. So to me, as a fan of superheroes, I want there to be more continuity. I want there to be, but again, DC's always been problematic for me. So maybe I'm just jaded. If you guys are pro DC, then
well, go ahead.
No, you.
I've just always been like a DC guy more than a Marvel guy. But I've just really not enjoyed like any of the movies, which I may have mentioned once or twice on the show.
Well, they're really committed to this whole Dark Knight.
Yeah,
it must be very serious and somber, and everything's gray. And...
Yeah, it's like I'm colorblind, but like throw me a little color, you know.
I mean, I also it's like I feel like this Batman is almost like throwing out too many dad jokes. Like I feel like he thinks he's funny, but he's not. And then he's overly serious, and the more he tries to be gloom and doom, the more hilarious it is because it's Affleck. And God save it. I mean, I actually liked his Daredevil before we got the Daredevil Marvel TV series. I'm one of the few people who actually liked the Daredevil movie.
Yes, you are.
Terrible.
And
terrible.
I mean, again, so I don't know if you should trust my judgment. So I don't know. When I was watching, there's so many moments in the trailer where I was kind of snarked it. Like I gave it objectivity for CNET's sake. So if you look at the gallery, I'm not throwing in my 2 cents. And I loved that there's, Amber Heard's in there for like 3 seconds. I like that there's different shout outs to the comics. So it's this movie's going to be interesting. It's just, I don't know how much more stuff they're going to throw at it that we haven't seen in the trailer.
Yeah.
Like, is there going to be a Lex Luthor moment? Is there going to be like all the bad guys thrown at the wall as well? So it just becomes like the Lollapalooza of DC.
Yeah.
Don't
these ensemble superhero movies, don't they feel like overwhelming, especially when there's so many of them?
Yeah. I mean, the Avengers, on the flip side, Marvel.
Yeah, this felt like an answer to that.
Yeah, it felt like an answer to the Avengers. I feel like they kind of been watching Marvel and saying, oh, all these Avenger movies are doing great, so maybe we should, and then they have standalones as well, so maybe we should look at that.
It's an interesting balance because on the one hand, adding more and more characters does tend to result in sort of worse movies. Like in the Batman movies, like you keep needing more villains to have the same effect. You get power creep and all that. But on the other hand, everybody does want to see team-ups.
Yeah.
Take all we'll be talking about this later, but the Netflix Marvel shows, I haven't genuinely enjoyed any of them, honestly.
Really? Okay.
But I'm still hyped for Defenders because the idea of seeing all these people come together sounds really fun.
Defenders and Infinity War. So, and by the way, I wrote an article today on CNET on how you can audition to be an extra for Infinity War, and they don't want any actors. They want fresh blood. So if you want to look like someone that's just about to get smashed by a superhero, go to New York. They're taking applications now. But yeah, like Infinity War and Defenders, I feel like, I was a little, I hate to say this, but I was kind of like underwhelmed by Civil War because it just, Marvel Civil War, I was like, ugh. They didn't have Hulk, which was depressing.
They didn't have enough room to do what they needed to do.
Yeah, and it also felt like it was a little they just sped it along a little too quickly, and you didn't really get invested in characters.
That's what I mean. They didn't have enough time.
Right.
And they took up a lot of it with Spider-Man, which was, it was one of the best parts of the movie, but it didn't actually belong in that movie. It kept it from being the great Captain America movie it could have been.
The idea of Tony Stark and Spider-Man's aunt hooking up is just... That's a standalone movie. But yeah, and then they're gonna, a lot of these movies that are like everybody's in them, they're supplicating that too with standalones for all these characters. So we're gonna get standalones for your favorite characters. It's just you may have to wait a while. But
yeah, our friends in the chat room are saying there's gonna be a Batman movie, directed by Matt Reeves, coming out soon. Okay. Or not soon, but in the future.
With Affleck?
Eventually.
With Affleck. Yeah.
Okay. I stand corrected. I didn't know because I remember there was some stories hitting the wire that he said he was done with Batman.
Yeah, there was some controversy about it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like again, I think TV is a good medium for if you're not going to do a standalone of certain characters, having them have their own TV series, whether it's on Netflix or whether it's on CW or mainstream networks, is an interesting approach too, because then it's not just one movie, it's a whole season where you really get to know the characters, like The Flash or Legion or Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and now of course Iron Fist.
Yeah.
So
well, like with the DC stuff, and it pisses me off to no end that, like, you know, I've been reading about these characters like my whole life practically, and like anytime somebody asks me about a movie, I'm always, you know, talking smack about it, and I just feel like I'm not being, you know.
Do you watch any of the animated series? Because I've
watched a lot of them.
I feel like the animated series for DC does a really good job. Yeah.
Well,
and they're not just for kids. I mean, they're great. Yeah.
The thing that I've been trying to kind of keep in mind for this is like, it's just like, you know, when I was younger reading the comics all the time, you know, sometimes you just get an issue that just, you know, like maybe you didn't like the storyline, it kind of sucked or whatever, but you still like the characters, and you know, it's like you're like, okay, I can't wait till this story arc is over. I'll just wait for the next one. And like you get used to that, you know, reading comics all the time.
You can't be too strict about what is and isn't canon.
Right. So you just like, okay, well, this is just kind of insane. Let's see what's coming up next. And you just, you know, you're bound to get something that you like. It's just harder with the movies because it's like, okay, yeah, maybe this isn't my particular cup of tea when it comes to what I would want in a Justice League movie. Although I'm still going to go see it because it's still going to be cool seeing all these guys together. I mean, like, Cyborg's going to be in a movie. Like, I'm a big Teen Titans fan. I've got like the whole run.
Oh, yeah.
I've got his first appearance. It's autographed by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, the writer and artist who created him. And and then like I was happy when Cyborg was on the Super Friends for its last season.
Yeah.
So like the fact that he's in a movie, it's like I've at least got that. Now, if the movie's any good, whatever, it's going to be interesting to watch. It's just harder with the movies because it's like, since they're so big and it takes such a long time for them to, it's a little harder to be like, well, I'll wait till next time. Maybe it's going to be something that I like. Whereas with a TV show, like you were saying, it's like you might get, well, with some shows, you might get something that you're not fond of, but like the next episode, you know, might be a little bit better.
Yeah, and they get a chance to grow. I mean, the Flash, when I originally started watching, I'm like, oh, it's going to be goody two-shoes crap. And now I'm like, I like it better than Arrow. Like, I like it better than most shows. And I mean, they just did their all musical episode with Supergirl crossover, which I love musical episodes of shows that don't really do musical. And it like ranks right up there with, you know, Once More with Feeling from Buffy Vampire Slayer. So, I mean, there's something, that's a cool thing with superheroes, because they're on TV, because they're on their movies, because they're comics, and video games. There's so many ways to consume it that everyone can get something out of it. It's just a matter of, okay, how are you going to present something that has all your favorite characters at once? And is it going to be too much? Like Defenders, is it Defenders or Infinity that's going to have Guardians of the Galaxy in it as well?
I would assume
Infinity. It's like, at this point, I don't even know if they're going to have enough running time to put every single character in. And that's another thing to consider, too, is movie running times are getting longer and longer and longer. Yeah. So it's like, is this Justice League movie supposed to be super long? Is there going to be a cute little intermission in the middle?
Well, I mean, it's a Zack Snyder movie, so like half of it's going to be like a slow-mo shot of somebody, you know, it's like slow, then fast. So, I mean, that tends to pad the movie a little bit.
That's true. And I should also comment that you made a good reference to the TV shows of certain characters that you'd like to see. Runaways is coming to television as well. And that's another great series where it's, you know, all these supervillains. What happens when their kids didn't know that their parents were supervillains? How do you grapple with that as a teenager? And then they all kind of run away and do their own thing. So it'll be an interesting, but that's not for a while. It just seems like every week there's a new announcement of a new TV show or movie.
Yeah, Inhumans and everything.
Yeah.
But one advantage of DC not being unified between TV and movies is it gives them more of a chance to keep trying different things and starting over, you know, which if you're not loving one particular thing they're doing, at least.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. You're not stuck with them for decades because, though we're not necessarily stuck with certain Marvel characters too.
There's more. There can be experimentation there too. For example, Legion is supposed to be very different. I haven't seen it, but you were saying it's really good.
Yeah, Legion's different. Noah Hawley, who's the guy who did Fargo, he was basically Fargo TV series. He was basically given like an open like slate and said, okay, here's a character that's Professor X's son who's schizophrenic, and there's a certain amount of comics that cover this, but we want you to do your own thing. And Dan Stevens plays David, who is the lead in this, and you start the season. It's on FX and it's on Hulu right now, so you can watch the whole stretch if you're on Hulu or whatever. But you start out in a mental hospital, so it's a good concept of if you're a mutant but you don't know you're a mutant, but you're also schizophrenic, and you're in a mental hospital for most of your adolescence. What does that mean? Like, what does it mean to be a mutant who doesn't know if all the voices and all the powers that you have are made up? And then they do it in such an interesting way. I call it Wes Anderson and Stanley Kubrick doing a Marvel series because it's so beautiful to watch.
What show was that again?
Legion. And it doesn't make any sense. And in fact, I think this season finale, which I have not seen yet, I think it aired last night, or it airs tonight. No, it aired last night. It probably brought up more questions than answers. And I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. I'm not going to name characters they've come to revelations of who's who. But the different mutants that they show, it's not a superhero movie or a TV series. You don't see capes. You don't see the typical X-Men type stuff going on. The mutant powers, you only see it in a couple other characters. But it's just very interesting how they do it. And the casting's so interesting. Jean Smart is in it. She plays the head of this place called Summerland, which also, if you Google Summerland, you'll find out that's the Native American name for the astral plane and afterlife. So there's all these different things. The mental hospital is called Clockworks. And you get these interesting cues to the comics. You get interesting shout-outs to X-Men, but they don't throw it in your face. Like, they don't even mention Professor X. They don't even mention David's dad. And the villain doesn't get mentioned till the second to last episode. So it's very interesting. Aubrey Plaza should get an Emmy for her performance in the show, playing one of the friends, or is it a voice? So, oh yeah.
You can keep talking.
Okay, no, it's like I get instantly drawn in. As you can see, very Wes Anderson coloring.
Oh yeah.
I read that her role was written for like a 50-year-old man, and they didn't change any of the lines.
No,
when she took it over.
She took it over, and the interesting thing is none of the actors knew what was happening from script to script. They were kept in the dark, except for Aubrey Plaza. She knew everything, so that makes her extra evil.
As long as the viewer knows what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, Clockworks looks like a Wes Anderson musical, really. But the superpowers are amazing. You're not sure what time period you're in because it feels like the 60s. Because everyone dresses like they're in the 60s. But it's done really well. The music, the soundtrack's amazing. Like, I cannot say how much I love the show. And then it's polarizing for some people because they want a typical superhero show. They don't want this weird LSD trip. And it really is. It's like it's an LSD Marvel show. But I love it, and I highly recommend it. And Dan Stevens does a great job as the lead. And he's British. You probably know him from Downton Abbey. Obviously, he's in Beauty and the Beast. I mean, he's doing really well this year. But he only speaks in an American accent, and then he speaks in a British accent when there's an episode where he's talking to himself, and it's his normal accent. So it's an interesting take. But I highly recommend it. You're going to get obsessed with it if you like it. But it's not like the typical Marvel Netflix shows like the Iron Man, or I'm sorry, not Iron Man, like Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and Daredevil. It's not like that. So you're gonna be lost. You're gonna be Googling a lot when you watch
I'm
Legion.
lost all the time. I'm used to it.
But it is interesting that X-Men has always had as its message, basically, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just different. And this show is saying, well, what if you were different and there was something wrong with you?
Yeah, and there is something wrong with him. And he's not necessarily a good guy. He does bad stuff too. And he's grappling with it because he's just now as an adult finding out, oh, I'm a mutant, but oh, wait a minute, I'm still schizophrenic. And oh, wait a minute, I still have all these issues. And oh, wait a minute, should I even believe these doctors? Because what do you do when you're in a mental hospital where everyone's lying to you as well? Right. So it's a very interesting story, but it's also these characters are not typical characters. So I highly recommend it. I don't know. Should we go into the Iron Fest? I feel like we should go to Iron Fest at some point.
I cut Eric off just then, so we should go to Eric.
Eric,
I was just going to say, Bill Roberson in the chat room was asking about another trailer that just dropped this week for Valerian. Anyone familiar with that, based on the graphic novel?
Yeah.
It's French, right? I haven't read it.
I haven't read it, but the trailer looks amazing.
Agent Valerian, you'll be running solo.
I only work with my partner.
Hi.
We're a team. Let's go.
You're running nearly 20 minutes late.
Yeah, well, time flies when you're having fun.
Welcome to Alpha. The city of 1,000 planets.
I think this is a Luc Besson joint, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very Fifth Element-y.
Yeah, it has like kind of a 21st century Terry Gilliam kind of look to
Well,
it.
when they meet the aliens, it just reminds me when they meet the aliens in Fifth Element.
Yeah.
And the loading dock. But it's beautiful. I mean, this is one of these movies you have to see in a theater.
Centuries of peace and prosperity. An unknown force wants to destroy all we have created.
Agents Valerian and Laureline, you have less than 10 hours to find the threat and
The
eliminate
dude's got
it.
boob armor too.
I know.
Like Starship Troopers.
I'm all for boob armor.
Hey, it's equal opportunity.
Finally a bra that supports something.
The whole universe is after us.
We need the two of you to be the guardians of our future.
Yeah, I know nothing about this universe or this story, but I could see. I think I might go check that one out in the theater.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty cool, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous. I mean, here's the thing: is geeks, self-proclaimed geeks, and comic book fans, we don't have to know everything about everything. It's kind of nice to like.
Well, yeah, that's the fun.
Rihanna's
It's like discovering
Yeah,
like a
Rihanna's
whole
in
new
it. I mean,
universe.
come on, it's like Avatar meets Fifth Element meets Guardians of the Galaxy with some supermodels,
Yeah,
really
it's
good
definitely
music.
getting an Avatar vibe.
Yeah, I totally love it. Like I'm sold, and I don't really know anything about that, and I'm already sold just on the special effects.
I like how the two main like everything else is so pretty and clean, and then the two main characters look like they're strung out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm all for it. Like, here's the thing: like, doesn't everything has to be Marvel, DC? I mean, there's plenty of open space out there in cinema and television for lots of different things. So.
But there's still more Marvel in the form of Iron Fist.
Iron Fist.
Which I wore the shirt for.
Yes.
It's not totally
Thank you
correct,
for
but,
reminding everyone that there's better kung fu out there.
We actually have an article on the site that that Aloe did that has examples of all the YouTube videos of a whole bunch of people fighting much better than Danny does in this.
Yeah. I feel like I would love to watch Danny Rand and Doctor Strange just try to out-mansplain each other.
Yeah, we were talking about that on Twitter about how like so what I picture is Doctor Strange just patronizing Danny so much because Danny had to have daily training for his entire life and get beaten every day and so forth, and Doctor Strange just swanned in,
with
had
Tilda
some
Swinton,
tea, did a few exercises, and suddenly he can control.
Yeah.
Life
and
death.
also, it would be great just once to have an actual Asian or Asian American superhero come in and tell both of them to the side. Seriously, I mean, we have so much whitewashing when it comes to kung fu, and I mean that's been going on forever. I mean, David Carradine was not Asian,
but that is one of the major problems with this show is that they took this very dated idea and instead of trying to update it in a good way, like having an Asian American Iron Fist, as people were asking for example, they really just leaned into it and just went for it and said like, well, what if he was super privileged and a jerk? What if he kept losing his temper? What if he mansplained everything to everyone? Let's just make that guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's also the problem with superheroes is you don't want the 1% to also have superpowers unless something really tragic happens to them, like their parents get murdered or their military is used in a way they don't want. You know, Tony Stark and Bruce Wayne, they're the 1%, but they've had really horrible childhoods.
Well, and there's a scene in this that really got my attention. He's angry at Ward, you know, one of the guys there. So he's angry, he's humiliated, he's walking out of a restaurant, he turns and he just shoves a restaurant employee so that he falls over just because he lost his temper. That's our hero. I mean, picture Batman doing that or Superman, you know?
Yeah.
That's obviously wrong, and it's obviously wrong here too. He's not he's just kind of gross. I hate him. He makes my skin crawl. All right.
I just
cards on the table.
Honestly, like I watched the whole thing because I'm not going to rip apart something I haven't watched, but I will say that there's a scene where he totally mansplains weapons to a girl, and if I was that girl, I would totally have taken the sword and just man-sliced him, actually.
Not
but
just a girl, but a professional
instructor.
a
professional instructor. So it's not like he's shown his date his like cool collection of swords. It's like literally he's
Which is one of the reasons I'm hyped for Defenders, because the idea of Jessica Jones rolling her eyes at Danny epically.
Jessica Jones' eye roll is its own superpower, and I just cannot wait for her to just rip Danny to shreds. And then also Luke Cage isn't going to stand for that crap either. I mean, Luke is probably one of my favorites out of the whole spectrum of the Netflix standalone TV series.
It is very hard to picture him working as partners with this particular Danny
can't
Rand,
see
right?
it. I can't see it. And maybe that's the whole point, is that they're going to argue the whole time, and that's what's going to make the dynamics interesting.
And I picture Jessica treating it like, oh, it's Luke and his stupid friend.
Probably. I mean, I don't know how this is all going to work together when they're all shoved together in one movie. Or what is?
I do want to see that, though.
Yeah, I do.
They seem like they could be really interesting together as a group.
Yeah. And again, you don't have to have a group that gets along. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is a perfect example of misfits that are constantly arguing while they're fighting bad guys.
As we said on Legion, nobody fights like... No, not Legion, Legends. Legends of Tomorrow. Nobody fights like family.
Yeah, Legends of Tomorrow. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's also a really good series to see some DC characters in action.
So, we're also coming up on kind of the exciting debut season for HBO. I think we got time for one more. Do we want to go out on the trailer for Silicon Valley or Game of Thrones?
I'd say Game of Thrones, but it's up to you guys.
I don't have HBO, so I don't
I
really
don't
get a choice.
I only order HBO for Game of Thrones, and then I cancel it.
Let's do Game of Thrones. Silicon Valley can wait.
I haven't seen this yet.
We live in Silicon Valley, so let's do Game of Thrones.
I'm playing this from the computer, so it's going to be a little different, okay? Here we go. You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Quit adding stuff in, Steven.
I think...
Yes, please.
Yes.
I think HBO has figured out, though, that they can now put minimal effort into these teasers and trailers, and people will still go crazy.
They could have just shown a picture of the throne, and I would have been like, yes, it's coming. It's coming soon. I can't wait. Like, I'm so hooked on Game of Thrones, it's become a bit of an issue. I feel like there should be a Game of Thrones Anonymous at this point, because most of us are going, we don't know what to do when the show's not on, and all those articles that people write of what to do when Game of Thrones isn't on does not work. It does not work at all. And so the teaser trailer, as soon as I came on, chills. I got chills and goosebumps, and I'm excited, and I can't wait.
Yeah. So she breathes out the air, you can see her breath at the end. That's winter, right?
Yeah.
Winter's there.
Yeah. Winter's there. It's not coming.
Is this the last
season,
or is there one more after this?
Oh.
No, there's more.
I think there's
this
more.
Is the
there's got to be more.
This isn't the last one, and the last season's only gonna have like 6 episodes, I heard, or something.
Yeah,
like that, right?
They're doing less. They're toying with our emotions.
And this season actually doesn't debut till July, like mid-July, which is
16.
Winter is coming in summer.
Yeah, in summer.
Yeah, right.
That's when we're gonna need it. Yeah,
the South American fans are excited.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm super excited. I mean, this is a perfect example of how to do a great series based on a book series, how to keep people excited, how to have great characters, great writing, great acting, great special effects. I mean, it's got everything. So even if you've never seen Game of Thrones, you can go back and watch them all on iTunes or however you digitally consume things. But you can also read the books, and the books are just chock full of stuff that isn't in the show as well. So I love this series so much.
Yeah, I'm hearing in the chat room that there's one more season after this one, if we trust our chat room.
Yeah.
Of course we trust our chat room.
I always trust the chat room. Thanks, chat room.
If that is your real name.
If that is your real name and you're not nanobots from Elon Musk.
Oh, there's disagreement in the chat room. Somebody said this is the last. I really don't think this is the last one, but I could be wrong. I'll go down to Santa Fe and ask George.
There you go.
Cool. Well, a ton to look forward to. Any final recommendations before we go? Anything we haven't touched on yet?
Spider-Man, but
Spider-Man Homecoming, I guess. I don't know. Spider-Man's such a dork to me, so it's like I want to like him, but my favorite version of Spider-Man was the 1960s animated series, because if you want to see some really whacked out storylines, there's some interesting
animated might be a little bit of a stretch to describe that.
Was it 70s or 1969? Yeah,
no, it was
Spider-Man?
like, I think it started
about
in
the cartoon.
67.
Yeah, the cartoon.
Yeah, it's the 60s,
yeah, that was pretty weird. And then the Japanese Spider-Man live action series.
Oh, that's awesome.
Was always my favorite. So,
Spider-Man.
and you can see both of those. I think Marvel.com has the Japanese live action one. You can watch that on Marvel.com. But yeah, with Spider-Man, I don't know. It's always a.
See, I identified with him because he's a dork. Like,
yeah. I liked him in Civil War. He was kind of like a bright spot in Civil War because him and Ant-Man in Civil War were great because they were just looking, oh, you're Captain America. Holy cow, you're Iron Man. Like they were fanboying the other superheroes, which is actually kind of endearing.
I'm looking really forward to this.
Yeah, me too. What's up, guys? But by the way, cosplayers are really trying hard to do the eye thing.
Oh, I was reading about that, yeah.
Do me a favor. How did they do it? What's the technology?
It's just these little, like, I'll write an article.
Stay close to the ground.
So apparently this is taken from the Miles Morales version of Spider-Man, so people are kind of annoyed about that.
Can you summon an army of spiders? Oh, Ned, no. Do you know him, too? Stole his shield. Can I try the suit on? Badass.
The rich and the powerful,
I haven't seen
like
this
Stark, they don't care about us. The world's changing, boys. Time we change, too.
These weapons are crazy dangerous.
Listen, Peter, forget the flying monster guy. There are people who handle this sort of thing.
The illegal weapons barrier was at 2:30. You missed it. No.
What if somebody had died?
I was just trying to be like you.
I wanted you to be better. I'm gonna need the suit back.
But I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
Says the guy who wears armor.
Yeah, thanks.
But that was Iron Man 3, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The whole plot of Iron Man 3.
I'll do anything to protect my family. I know you know what I'm talking about.
So don't mess with me. Because I will kill you and everybody you love.
It is almost 30 years since Michael Keaton.
I know, I was
played
just thinking that.
Batman.
I was just thinking that.
Eric, why'd you do that to me?
Yeah.
I mean,
don't do anything stupid. All right?
Yeah.
At least you didn't say I'm rich. Yeah, I just love seeing Michael Keaton back in a superhero movie. I mean, Birdman, I guess, sort of counts, but honestly, like...
He's my favorite Batman.
He's my favorite Batman, too. I just, like, it's so cool that he's in this. I'm excited. I don't know.
I'm down with that as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that's the time we've got for today. There will be an eighth season of Game of Thrones the year after this one, so 2018, according to everything I'm seeing. They just haven't decided how many episodes yet. So it lives on. Winter is still coming, and then it'll last for another year. So that is Farsighted for today. Thanks for watching and for chatting with us. We will be back in April For Bonnie Burton, Stephen Beacham, Kelsey Adams, and Jeff Sparkman, I'm Eric Mack. Stay super.
Whoops, I messed that up. I'll fix that later.